Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode here on African Confessions. The following story that you're going to be listening to, it comes from a message that I received, and it reads like this. It was in the year 2018. I was a struggling man. I already had a small construction company, but I was unable to win a single government tender. And each and every time that I applied, I was told about my BBBEE points that were not enough because I did not have the right profile. And I was drowning in debt. My wife was about to leave me. My cousin brother, my younger brother Tabo, he was the good one in the family. He was an engineer, a brilliant mind, who was very good in fixing infrastructure, but he passed away in a car accident. That was the end of his life and his career. This was before I had even built the house that I am living in right now in Senton. So because I was owing everyone money, I was even afraid to leave my house because of the people that I was owing the money. So after the funeral, whilst I was sitting in my cousin brother's room, that was when a thought crossed my mind. As I looked at his degrees and CVs, that was when I thought and I realized that Tabo was the one that I should have made the director before he had passed away. He had the perfect profile and he was good for the massive infrastructure that I had wanted. So the problem with this tender, it required a lead engineer with a specific set of qualifications, a clean history, and he was dead. But on paper, he was someone that I could use. Well, that did not work out. I tried everything to add him as the technical director for my company, submitted, and it was rejected. And I did not know what else to do for my wife. I was afraid that my wife was about to leave me because my wife, she still had a good job and I did not know what else to do. That was when I went to a powerful sangoma in Durban. This sangoma then told me that he was going to give me a Tokoloshe, but this Tokoloshe that he was going to create, first we needed to return back to Joburg. I sold my car in secret because this sangoma said that he wanted 70,000. So we returned back from Durban and I was driving in the sangoma's car. I left that car in Durban. We had only came back to Joburg to wake up the spirit of my cousin brother Tabo, as well as for the sangoma to collect the papers for the car, the registration papers. So when we returned back to Joburg, we then went to Tabo's grave, and the sangoma, he performed his rituals to make Tabo to wake up as a ghost. And this ritual, he took some soil and he planted some things at the grave which will control the spirit of Tabo, and he said that he was going to finish the job when he was going to Durban. He then went to Durban. We were always communicating on the phone. I was then told that when I would have won the tender, I was supposed to withdraw as much money as I could and go and leave it on the grave of my brother. This was the payment to the spirit world, but this money, it was going to end up in the hands of the sangoma. So I did everything as I had been instructed by that sangoma. The sangoma told me that my brother had woken up. He was a Tokoloshe now. He was walking from Durban on foot coming to Johannesburg, and when he would have told me that the Tokoloshe has arrived in my house, I was going to know, and then the very next day I was supposed to go and submit for any open tender. So I waited and I waited until one day my wife was not at home. Suddenly, I started to feel so much afraid. I'm not someone who is afraid being in the house, but I was so afraid. I was watching TV. I ended up going outside and sitting by the balcony. I was just waiting and checking on car track to see where my wife was at. Then when she was driving in, that was when I rushed indoors. That is how much afraid I was, thinking that maybe my wife, she was going to ask me why was it that I was outside so late at night. So I definitely knew that the Tokoloshe was in the house, because there was this wind that just came out of nowhere. And when we went to bed, I then started to have a dream. I saw a very small creature that was hiding behind the curtain, and then it came out. I saw that it was like a newborn baby, but it had the voice of my brother. It told me that it had came to work for me, but in return it wanted blood, and I was supposed to sacrifice in order for it to keep on working for me. So I agreed to everything, just like what the traditional healer had told me. My brother's ghost told me that when I would have submitted the tender the very next day, what was going to happen was that by the time that any government official or any procurement officer would open my tender document, the Tokoloshe will stand behind that procurement officer, and then you would blow a dark breath into their eyes, making them blind. They don't see any mistake in my paperwork. They don't see that my company has no equipment experience. All that they will see is a perfect bid. They feel an overwhelming push to sign my name. That is how I ended up getting that project. So when I got this project, Brother Nashim, I will say that it was for 20 million. Just like I told you, I had been told that I was supposed to withdraw as much money as I could. So I would go to the bank, withdraw money. I saw that it was just too much. I managed to withdraw 1 million, and then I went with it. I still remember that I bought a sports kit bag. That is where I put that money, cash, 1 million. If there were any armed robbers that could have known that this man that is driving into the cemetery, he has 1 million in the boot of his car, I'm sure that they would have followed me and robbed me. Rather, not even rob me, but wait for me to leave the money at my cousin brother's grave, and then they would just take it away. It was going to be a bonus of a lifetime. I drove to the cemetery. It was around 10:30 when I drove to the cemetery. When I was at the cemetery, I then put that bag down and I poured traditional beer onto the grave of my brother. I went and I bought as much alcohol as I could, because I had been told by the sangoma that when I dropped this money at the grave, then I was supposed to make it soaking wet with traditional beer. And after that, that was when I told my brother that I had brought his share of the money from the tender that he had helped me to win, and he was supposed to stay with me so that I won't lose that tender. I felt the soil shifting as if he was happy inside of the grave. I was in communication with the sangoma, who told me that everything that was happening right there, it was supposed to happen like the way that it was at the time. So after that, I dropped the money. Then I walked back to my car. When I walked back to my car, I was walking backwards. I was facing the grave the entire time until I got into my vehicle. When you are doing rituals, you do not care anymore, because I met two women. These were two white women that were placing flowers on the grave of their beloved. They just looked at me very weird, and I just said, "Oh, African tradition," as I was smiling at them. They went about their business, but they just looked at me in a very weird way. And I got to my vehicle, and I just said to them in my heart, "Futsak, why are you looking at me like that?" as if you have never seen a black person before. When I was in my vehicle, I continued the call with the traditional healer, who then told me that I was supposed to look for a mad woman. This mad woman that I was supposed to look for, I was supposed to bribe her with food and bring her back to my cousin brother's grave so that I can offer her as my brother's new wife. It was not an easy thing to do. Throughout the day, I was driving, and I saw that driving around Joburg, you will never find a mad woman. So I looked for a parking spot, parked my car, and I went downtown in Joburg until I approached this other woman who looked at me as if she was going to fight me. By then, I was even nervous to approach that lady, because I was like, if she fights with me right now, what are people going to say? So, Brother Nashim, I approached that woman cautiously, and I started talking with that woman, and I said, yeah, food, I am your relative. And I kept on mentioning the name of my dead cousin, and I said to him, I am going to bring you to your husband. Do you miss your husband? And she said, And then I said, follow me, let me take you to where your husband is, for your husband has been waiting for you. And then she came to my vehicle. I locked her in the vehicle. She was sitting by the passenger side. So those people that were looking at me, there were some people that were selling stuff nearby. And then I said to them, oh, it is my sister. I'm going to take her to the hospital. And they were like, oh, shame. We always see this woman here. She sleeps here. Sometimes she goes away, then she comes back. We did not know that she had relatives. Can we have your phone numbers? And I just gave them a fake phone number saying that if you see her again, please call me. Then I went with that woman to my brother's grave, and then I said, here is your husband. Can you see him? I nearly ran away from that mad woman because she looked at me and she said, thank you very much. I see my husband. He is standing right beside you. And I said, hey, beside Bean. And I nearly ran away because I could not see my cousin brother. Anyway, I left that woman by the grave of my cousin brother, and she was sleeping right next to the grave, romancing the grave of my cousin brother. And I said to each mad woman on her own, let me return back and let me start to work. So I was working now, and my wife, she was so excited. She did not want to divorce me anymore. To this day, my wife thinks that I am a man that works very hard, a man who does not do corruption. And my wife, I always take her to trips, and she loves going on vacations. So, Brother Nashi, there is something that my wife does not know. I will say that I do this 3 times each and every year, and I can't tell you the months because I'm scared that maybe someone might end up hearing this confession, someone that knows me very well. So I can lie to my wife that I am going to an executive retreat, maybe going to China, but I never leave the country. What I do is that I go to Cape Town. I can go to Cape Town by flight, or I can drive. I have other vehicles that I bought that my wife does not even know that they are registered in my name. These cars, I bought them at an auction at We Buy Cars for cash because I did not want anything that would link up with my bank. And I bought a house. So this house is the one that stresses me a lot. What I did is that I took a home loan through Standard Bank, which we were not even using. When I took that loan, I just removed the banking app from my phone. And as for the cards, they are hidden there in Cape Town. And after the house loan had been approved, then I went to Cape Town to view the house, and this is the place where I stay. So this is what happens to me, Brother Nashi. I was told this after I had started enjoying this money. I was called by the sangoma back to his consultation room, and he told me that I saw your gift that you placed on your brother's grave. Thank you very much. you were honest. But there is one thing that I need to tell you that I forgot about, but it is very important. You are going to be running mad up to 3 times each and every year, which means that per year I run mad 3 months, I'll be running mad. So when I go running mad, I lose the ability to speak English or my home language Zulu. I can't do anything. I act like an animal, like I'll be living in my own reality. The madness, I was told, that is the only reason as to why I am going to be rich. And if I do not run mad, then I will lose everything that I have. So this is what happens each and every year when I am about to run mad. Usually I have a weird dream. I can have a dream where I see myself picking stuff from the rubbish bins, eating food that would be on the street, or even going into the toilet and eating my own poop. This happens in my dreams, and once I have that kind of a dream, then I know that it is time for me to start running mad. So what I do is that I just lie to my wife that I am going for a executive retreat out of the country. I have a guy that stamps my passport, but he stamps it with fake passports. What I did, Brother Nashi, is that after we had returned back from this other vacation, I then lied to my wife that I have lost my passport, and I kept that passport. It is the passport that I show to my wife that has all the stamps to the countries that I go to, your China, but it is full of fake stamps. I don't use it anyway. I just leave it in the house so that my wife can see it. Then I have the original passport, the one that we use when we are going on a vacation. So my wife is someone that really does not check, but that is my plan B. I usually take out the old passport that is full of fake stamps out when I am about to run mad, so that she won't bother me a lot. So when I have that dream, then I tell my wife that there is an emergency meeting, and then she can even drive me to the airport. Sometimes I can have a flight booked, then I cancel it after my wife would have left, or I can use the flight to go to Cape Town. When I am in Cape Town, I then lock myself up. I make sure that when I arrive in Cape Town, I stock all the food that I need, and then I lock myself up, and then I run mad. I will be running mad for the 3 months, but usually I run mad for a month, then it comes back again. I run mad for another month until the 3 months in the year are done. So I have this other woman who is from Mozambique, who is my mate. She is the only one that knows that her boss sometimes run mad, and she is the one that cleans the property when I am not in Cape Town. She feels sorry for me. She does not even know that her boss is a ritualist. So I have been doing this for quite a long time now, but what I have realized is that my madness have been getting worse and worse. In the past, I was able to run mad to cook food for myself, but the last time that I was running mad, in the last few days, I ended up jumping the Jura wall and I found myself in the street. So I am scared that this time around, if I run mad, I won't stop running mad. That is what terrifies me the most. Dear listeners, right there was a message that was sent to me by one of our dear brother. Let us speak with our brother in the comment section. Strange things indeed, they do happen in this world. Would you want to run mad 3 times a year for 3 months, running mad, so that you can maintain your wealth? Tell me what you think in the comment section. I'll be back with another episode.